Welcome to Tough Topics. I'm your host, Vonnie Sweetland, and today we're placing the spotlight on civil discourse. For years, countries like Canada and the United States have been a beacon of hope for those wanting to be part of a culture that encourages civil discourse. Because after all, it's discourse that supports rather than undermines societal good. Whether it's politics, industry, social subjects, our ability to peacefully coexist as Canadians while sharing different perspectives that we all don't always agree with has made us unique. It's helped this country grow. But what happens when healthy dialogue is no more? When sharing an unpopular opinion or position is not only taboo, but puts your livelihood and in some cases even your life in jeopardy? Well, that's what's happening in this new era of cancel culture, media bias, and social media mobbing. Here to discuss is veteran journalist Tasha Kiernan, whose recent story in the National Post subjected her to some of this. Good morning, Tasha. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm well, Vonnie. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Of course. I'm just going to jump right into it because you've had a rather rough past couple of weeks. I think our viewers are best to hear it from you rather than me. What happened? What was your experience? You recently decided to write about vaccinations in the National Post, and it's my understanding that you took what you call a moderate position on vaccines and mandates, and you somehow became public enemy number one.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. I'll give a few more details. So I have a weekly column in the Post, and my column touched on vaccination. I was contrasting the positions of Justin Trudeau and Erin O'Toole, and I said both, in fact, were too extreme in my view, one being complete demonization. The Prime Minister called anti-vaxxers or non-vaccinated people racist and misogynist on a French television show back in December. And then Erin O'Toole, who said he was in favor of accommodation, things like rapid tests and others. And I said, honestly, between these two, I think that the best path lies, and that is a continuation of vaccine mandates, getting as many people vaccinated as possible. And if you're not going to be vaccinated, that yes, your activities would be restricted, in part to encourage you, but also to protect those who are. And the pushback I got was unlike anything I've actually ever seen on a column. And I've written some columns that have generated a lot of mail, but this got a lot of negativity. So I followed it up with a column explaining exactly what we're talking about today and what had happened, because I got death threats as well against me and my family, which was, that was very disconcerting. Yeah. And so I wrote a piece then on the need for civil discourse on this issue. And the response to that was a lot better. Or more heartening anyway. So we can discuss that too.
Yeah, and how did you deal with that? I mean, as a journalist, you of course understand that this comes with the job, it comes with the territory, but what was it like emotionally? Did that take a bit of a toll on you? Because as you said, this time the mail was different in nature than what you're used to.
Yes, I mean, I've had negative responses to columns I've written in the past on a variety of issues. I've written about politics, I've written about social issues, you name it, everything. And I've had people, call me names occasionally. I don't get a lot of that, which I'm thankful for. I know some of my peers, including a lot of women, you can see this on Twitter. You go there, it can be a very hostile sort of space. I haven't experienced that to that degree. Here I did. Like I said, I got called names you would not call your female relatives. Let's put it that way. A lot of that. But I also had, like I said, people saying, I'd like to see you and your family's brains splattered on your wall. That was a little hard. I spoke to my editor because, emotionally it did affect me. I would say for the 48 hours after a lot of his stuff came in, and I'm a pretty thick-skinned person, but I looked at this and thought, in fact, it was more emotional distress, less for me, but for the situation, because I thought, this issue is really tearing people apart. And that made me feel almost worse, because finding a path out of that is, it's beyond the purview of any journalist or any writer. It's a social issue that we all have to deal with. So how are we going to get there? So that made me think a lot. I was, reflecting on that a lot during the week.
Yes, of course. I understand wholeheartedly. I myself am a journalist by trade, and
Hmm.
I as well have gotten tons of mail on various articles. But what you're speaking about is really unacceptable. I mean, when we start getting into death threats, I think that's really crossing a line. We're going to pick up just after these messages. We'll be right back with Tasha Kiernan.